Hello, everybody, and welcome back again to the Planet Film Network. I am one of your hosts, Sean Monk,
I'm your other host, TJ Cornwell.
and tonight we are joined by a very special guest, a friend of mine, a local small filmmaker, uh, chronic student, and movie theater manager and butter connoisseur. Alex Frank is going to be joining us. We had a big movie come out this past weekend with Dune Part Two, and so we're gonna have Alex on to give some of his insight into the Oscars race. You join us next week. TJ and I are going to be breaking down all the winners and maybe snubs of the evening. But for tonight, we're locking in some of our very final predictions. We want to hear your guys' as well. And then obviously we'll be closing out the show with some Dune thoughts and then closing with Dune spoiler thoughts. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, you can join us for most of the show. We will let you know once spoilers begin for that. But before that, TJ, Alex, what's been going on? I mean, Alex, are you happy? How do you feel being on a podcast? Is this your first podcast? I know you're a man of many interviews at many festivals. So,
yeah, this is my first podcast. A little nervous, but I'm sure it'll go well.
There you go. Absolutely. TJ, how you been?
Pretty good. Yeah, I don't have much to bring to the table as far as what I've been watching this time around, but I'm very excited to talk about Dune Part Two.
Absolutely.
We'll say that.
All right. Well, let's get into some of the stuff that we have been watching or doing or anything like that that comes to mind. For me, I'm gonna run through some of them again. I have a lot. So, Tenet is kind of like one of the main things that I want to talk about. I was able to go up to Toronto. That was what I said before we left on the last show that we went to. I ended up doing kind of an impromptu trip to Toronto, which was a lot of fun. But the kind of prize jewel of that trip was going to see Tenet in 70 millimeter IMAX. And TJ, I'm just now realizing I don't even know if I said this to you. I can't even remember. But it was like 2 hours beforehand, and we were in a food court, and I got an email saying that the projector was broken. So
What?
they played it in. I have no idea how I didn't tell you about this, but I just now realized I was like, I don't think I ever texted him. Yeah, so they played it in digital, so I did not see it in 70 millimeter. They just played it in regular digital. But it was kind of nice. At first I was like, oh, we came all the way up here. We did like a trip of it for this movie.
Yeah.
But then it was like more so, the trip was worth it, and just still seeing the movie was worth it. It's my first time seeing it in any theater at all, and it was still a huge IMAX screen.
Yeah.
It was the same size screen as our local one, but I feel like it had a lot less rows of seats, so it felt a little more like intimate. So by that nature, I think it felt a little bit bigger, even if it maybe necessarily wasn't bigger. And then I dove into, finally, I know that you did this months ago, but I dove into the Cinephiles JFK episodes, and then I watched that. I borrowed 4Ks of that, which is like insane. I still have them because there's so many behind the scenes featurettes and stuff on those discs. I think it's a 6-disc set. And then for some reason I watched Jackass 4.5, which I had not seen yet. I always feel like the 0.5s of those movies are always so much more interesting, because it always goes into the behind the scenes and like the filmmaking and like the reasons. It's almost like a movie version of like a commentary track. It's pretty cool. Alex, any thoughts on the Jackass franchise, or specifically the behind the scenes nature of the 0.5s?
I watched the 0.5. I think before I watched 4.
Oh, there you go.
I don't really.
Well, I know
remember exactly
4 was
why.
on some weird thing. 0.5 was just on Netflix, right? I think.
I think it was that.
Yeah.
Where we were just throwing something on, and I think 0.5 was the one that was on something we currently had. Yeah.
Yeah, I just like. Well, I think still my favorite Jackass movie is Jackass 3.5, because that was the one where like that was the last one before these two, where like that was the one where they really were like, this is over, like, and this one was more like, we always say it's over,
Right.
versus like
That's what I
3.
was gonna say. It's like it's
Yeah,
over. Let's go on to do another 2 or 3,
exactly. Yeah,
3 of
like,
them.
and 3.5 to me, we're spending too much time in this, but I mean they're good movies. 3.5 to me was the one where it was like it really felt like a like send off, whereas
Mhm.
anything they said in 4.5 was always, well, we always say that. We always say it's the last one. So, who knows? And now they have like half of the team is new people, so like you can retire the
Mhm.
old people and keep it going with new directors even. Like, I think it's pretty cool. But and they always make a decent amount of money. Anyways, I then watched Captain America: The First Avenger because after JFK I was still feeling patriotic, so I went right into the Cinephiles episode on the First Avenger. And I watched that after that. Very, very good. Then I rewatched a 2021 movie called Dune. Uh, Pretty good. That was a pretty good movie. That was the first movie. That was the first full movie I've ever watched with my headphones. Because it was very
Oh.
late at night. I got off of a, what was it, 5 something to 2:30, 2:15, and I just went home and I was like, it was the night before I was gonna see Dune 2, and I was like, I just don't have
Mhm.
time. I'm either watching this now or I'm gonna sleep too late and not have a chance to watch the first one. I didn't want that to happen, so I just put my headphones in, and it was pretty awesome. A movie like that with that sound design, it was very, very good. Then I watched Dune Part Two. Then I rewatched 12 Angry Men. Really, really freaking good movie. Again, I got to watch it in a local theater, which is what we say on this show. Is I watched it at a local theater. Is very, very good. And then I watched David Lynch's Dune. Total whim. I just rented it.
Yeah.
I just have been feeling that whole mood this whole weekend. And then
Mhm.
yesterday, I was supposed to go with my father. He had something come up, so I took myself to see Dune Part 2 in RPX.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what I've been watching. I also watched the Avatar Last Airbender show. I was gonna do a full review on it. I made a thumbnail, recorded like half the video. I just don't want the effort of something like that that's just so like rage inducing.
Yeah.
I liked it. I know that that's a very unpopular opinion on the internet. I love the original show. I liked the new
Mhm.
show. I thought it was perfectly fine. I thought it was a million times better than the M Night Shyamalan movie. So
Yeah.
that's where I fall on that. But
Is that something, Alex? Is that something you checked out at all or no?
The Avatar show.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is not. I'm not very good with TV shows. I take a very long time, and I
Mhm.
don't splitting up things that I'm watching just because I will find myself taking years to complete stuff like
mm-hmm.
months, I guess,
Yeah.
to complete stuff like that. So that is not something that I have gotten to yet.
Awesome.
Uh,
Have you? Oh, hit it. Go for it.
One thing before we keep going or where we move, you want to just have him like just crank it, just crank the gain, and we'll just see what happens.
More.
Do
Yeah.
it on Discord.
Did more Discord.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Oh yeah, do it on Discord.
Discord. 70%. That better?
You can go a little bit higher.
75%.
Higher.
Give us 80.
75%.
80. That's perfect. That's
80.
perfect. That's perfect.
80.
There we
Yeah.
go.
Trust
All
me,
right,
this
okay,
is
sorry.
not a you thing. This
That's
is
definitely good,
every
yes.
single week there's audio
This is
issues,
okay.
so no problem at all.
Right.
My father in the chat, that is okay. I will definitely go see this movie again. So, no problem at all.
Just real quick on that, it's not something. I mean, I guess it would fall in the I watch category, but I don't know if you're done, Sean, with that. But
Yeah.
I did watch the first episode of that show, and it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just didn't really connect to it, unfortunately.
Had you watched the original?
I did 2020, I think it was.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed that. And as a kid, I had watched like episodes here and there, but I never like was like, oh, I'm gonna watch it week to week. Yeah, the acting was a little iffy at some points. I know it probably gets better. And one thing I will say is the bending I thought looked really good. Like all those effects, all that CGI looked really good. Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't hook me, and I figured, I'm not gonna watch all 8 episodes if I'm really not all that invested.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm just gonna stay away from this one.
unless I'm remembering wrong, I'm fairly certain it was 10. I think it's 10
10.
episodes. I
10
just mean it's
episodes.
even longer than you didn't want to do. I think that's totally fair. I mean, I know that we talked about it, we texted about it a little bit, that a very weird arc to me, but I thought that every episode got better than the last one. Like, it was like
Mhm.
through the production, they were just finding their footing. And normally, obviously, things are shot all over the place, but like, that show is so like, we're in this complete city this episode, and then the next episode we're in a entirely different part of like the world. You know what I mean? So it's like each episode kind of felt like its very own thing, and so whether it really was that, you know, they started with the first episode and moved through it, I know that's not usually how it is. It just felt to me as the viewer, and maybe it was even the editing or like the post production on it, that just, it just felt like they were finding the vibe and like the rhythm of their version of the show more and more with you know, each episode. I think that the first episode definitely felt a little like, we got to cram the first 5 episodes of the animated show into, you know, 55 minutes or something like that.
Mhm.
And I think by the time you got to the end, the actors have had a chance to kind of live in these characters more, and I think that the, you know, editing has had a chance to kind of let things breathe and not feel the need to like rush to plot points, although it did feel, you know, slightly rushed in some places. I think whenever you're taking like a 20 episode original show and then trying to smash it down into half that, you know, amount. Um and yeah, sure, it's like, even though it's kind of the same runtime because the live action episodes are longer, a lot more of that time's dedicated to action rather than just like living with characters in the original show, which that first show is a lot of just living with the characters.
Mhm.
It's kind of like early to late Game of Thrones difference. That's kind of what it felt like. I would say I put it on par with like, you know, a later season of Game of Thrones. Like, you know what I mean? And they said they
Mhm.
wanted to go for their Game of Thrones, but I think it was a little too dumbed down.
Was that the show
Yeah.
that had the biggest like volume set, like
Yes,
the
yeah,
virtual production
yeah.
stuff?
And I mean,
Yeah.
to their credit, you could tell a lot of the stuff. I know there's not much that I would consider that in the first episode that you saw, TJ, but um some of the later episodes, it's very clearly volume, and it's very clearly a huge volume. Like,
Mhm.
not the Obi-Wan, like, we have the whole Empire here and there's 20 stormtroopers. You know what I mean? It's like there's
Yeah.
like 50 firebenders lining up, you know, in formation, you know, and then still room that they're on a ship in the volume. You know, it's
Mhm.
pretty crazy stuff like that. I would say more similar to like House of the Dragon's use of the volume, where that's just very very big in scope versus trying to create like a small environment like you saw in like Batman or um what's that other one that uses the volume? Mandalorian. But yeah, that's everything that I've been watching. Maybe, who knows? Maybe I'll rewatch this. Also, another thing I got to shout out is, speaking of Star Wars in the volume, Paul Sun Hyung Lee, who plays Carson Teva in all the Mando shows. He plays Uncle Iroh in this show. Easily the best translation. Him and Zuko are easily the best translation from the original show. But within that,
Mhm.
Paul Sun Hyung Lee is easily like head and shoulders above the best character, the best performance in the live action show. Just wanted to shout him out because that was when I texted you that I was like, all right, the finale got me a little emotional. You know, anytime you were getting super emotional with that show, it was involving his character. So very very good. All right, switching gears here. Let's talk a little bit of the box office now. Couple months ago, you know, a couple weeks ago.
Wait a minute.
Whoa, whoa, whoa!
Wait.
What did we
I watched
miss?
some. I
I
watched
thought
I
we
didn't get a
something.
chance either.
Man,
Yeah. I
I
didn't
didn't
say
even
I
know
didn't
that I
watch
went first. I
anything.
didn't even know I went first. Go, go, go.
What, Alex? You go first, and then I'll go, and then
All right,
we'll continue on.
all right.
Like I said,
So
cut me off.
last couple of weeks have been kind of dry for me. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna start a little bit before the 20th. So on the 17th, I caught there was like at one of our Regals, they were doing the Oscar shorts in like
Hmm.
one big package. They did the live action and then they did the animated ones after. Didn't see the animated ones, but the live action ones I did go and see, and I was a little bit late. I guess they didn't have trailers starting off. So the first one I missed. I honestly can't remember the name of it. It was like a guy driving an Uber. Um,
Hmm.
from what I saw from that, I was not super into it. Next one was the Red, White, and Blue short. Um, then Night of Fortune, which was the uh, older guy with his he was at like a morgue or something. He was checking out like
Hmm.
hit look at his wife's body.
Oh,
Um,
jeez.
and there was like some humor in that one, really good. And then I watched this one called Invincible, which was a kid who went to like juvie. That one was amazing. I thought that was great. It was like 4x3. It was about the last couple days of that kid's life in juvie.
Hmm.
Then obviously there was the wonderful story of Henry Sugar, the Wes Anderson one.
Oh
That
yeah.
I'm a big fan of Wes Anderson. Like that like newer style that he has.
Yeah.
Everything's like a theater and
Hmm.
like a little
Like a
uh,
stage production.
stage production.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, great style, and I love that. Then watched the Tall T, which is like this '50s western. It was playing at a local theater. Uh, great movie. About like this these two people that get kidnapped by like this like small posse, and then they have to like escape. Very simple, but great '50s western.
Hmm.
Starring what was his name? I right here. Randolph Scott. So uh, big like western guy back
Hmm.
in the day. Then I saw this horror movie called Stop Motion, which I believe is like also a
Right.
um, Shutter movie.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, this was like on a whim. We had time to watch one movie one night, and it was
Yeah.
either this or Driveway Dolls. And I wasn't hearing super great things about Driveway Dolls, but um, so we just decided to do stop motion. The actual stop motion stuff in that movie is like really cool. They have like
Hmm.
some cool molds that they turn into people, and kind of like I mean, my only like analog to this is Mad God, but that's like a completely different thing. If you guys are familiar with that one, um, but like so it was like stop motion, and then there's like the rest of the movie, and the rest of the movie I was not super into a ton. It just felt kind of like Netflixy.
Yeah.
Um, the lead actress was in a movie called Nightingale, which
Oh, a
I've heard
nurse.
people really like. Um, and she was also in that like Last Voyage of the Demeter movie
Mm-hmm.
from last
Whoa, it
year.
made
Oh
six
yeah.
hundred and sixty-six thousand dollars. That's ominous.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So I do like the stop motion stuff in that movie quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like the movie surrounding it. Um,
Is it at least like creepy, or it just like
yeah.
wasn't very like?
No, it is creepy, but it's kind of like the movie kind of sets things up in the first 30 minutes,
Yeah.
and then at that point you're kind of like, oh, I've seen this a million times. I just kind of know where this is gonna go.
Yeah.
Um, so
Damn.
next I watched was 12 Angry Men. I think also the same local screening, and then Dune Part Two. That was last
Nice.
night,
Yeah.
and I went to Canada for they had like a dual laser IMAX projection in Canada.
Damn.
Um,
Everybody's going to Canada to watch these. I gotta go once.
you gotta look at those
Sean, I don't know if
comparisons.
Varying experiences.
It was
have you
digital
seen the.
projection, so we didn't have any
Oh
issues.
yeah.
Thank God.
If you see the picture of the stop motion, and every time I see this poster, I've seen it on TikTok
The
and
poster for it.
whatever. They pulled that like figure, that doll straight out of Doctor Who. It
Oh,
looks
a
the
hundred
remember that
percent.
episode I'm
Yes,
talking about?
100%.
Yeah.
Well, it's
I
either
yeah.
the episode that you reminded me about, or the brand new
Yeah.
one that also had the creepy
Oh,
baby in it.
yeah.
The stop motion stuff in that movie, the director, I looked at their letterbox just like I'm not like super deep diving into this person's
Hmm.
filmography,
Hmm.
but it looks like they have mostly like stop motion shorts in a very
Oh,
similar
okay.
style. Um, so
So they gave some money to guy to give it a
yeah,
shot. You know.
yeah, yeah, and I like the stop motion stuff in that movie.
Nice.
So,
All
All
right.
right.
My turn.
and then some Breaking Bad. I'm
Yeah.
watching
Oh
Breaking
yeah.
Where
Bad
are you at in that?
with my girlfriend. We're at season 3, episode 3.
Oh.
Um, IFT. We just watched that. I think that was the name of the episode. Um, I watched most of the show like when I was in high school a long time ago. But I don't remember where I stopped. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't finish it. Um, and I keep thinking like, oh, we're past the point where I have watched it. Um, but then there's like things that like a new character will be introduced, and it's like, oh, I remember them dying or something,
Yeah, yeah.
or I remember like they introduced this thing to the plot, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's kind of funny because as we go, it's revealing how much more I watched than I thought I did.
Yeah. Also for
Um,
revealing how little you remember of it,
yeah, yes, yeah,
or I guess just overall how memorable you found it.
yeah. I don't really know why I stopped at the time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you know, it's
Yeah,
only one of the biggest shows of all time, so you'll get there
it's really good.
eventually.
I like it now. I like it now.
Well, now you're in season 3. You're in it now. Now you're
Mhm.
Gus and Los Polos and Mike and